Today, I'm going to be making my predictions for the nominations for the Game of the Year, ahead of the nominations that are going to be coming out on November 18th, which is Monday. And we also got some very interesting news in regards to what type of game is actually going to be eligible for a nomination in terms of DLC, expansion, only full game releases, etc. But before we get into the video, we are almost at 800 subscribers, which was my goal for the end of this week. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all the support. If you're new to the channel, you like this video, and you're interested in gaming news and gaming reviews, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot. Now, let's get into the video. So to preface my predictions, I want to go through what the Game Awards came out and said in regards to DLCs, expansion packs, remakes, and remasters being eligible for the nominations. They said the Game Awards aims to recognize the best creative and technical work each year, irrespective of the format of that content's release. Expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are eligible in all categories if the jury deems the new creative and technical work to be worthy of a nomination. Factors such as the newness of the content and its price/value should be taken into consideration. And the reason this is very big, specifically where they say all categories, because that includes Game of the Year, and that's heavily going to influence my nominations and my predictions for the nominations, is because Shadow of the Erdtree came out this year. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, expansion or DLC for any RPG or maybe any game ever. And obviously that is my personal opinion, but I'm telling you right now, that game is getting nominated for the Game of the Year. 100%. And that's where we're going to get started with my predictions, because the first of the 6 games that I believe will be nominated on Monday at noon is Shadow of the Erdtree, obviously the Elden Ring DLC. A lot of you guys don't know my perspective or review, quote unquote, of Elden Ring as a whole, because I made my channel, or at least started posting on my channel, long after this game came out, even months after the DLC came out. But in my personal opinion, it was one of the greatest experiences I have ever had in gaming. I think Elden Ring is a masterpiece, obviously with some flaws, but a definite masterpiece. And I think Shadow of the Erdtree continued that. And I'm not a huge fan of DLCs being up for Game of the Year. I think there should be a separate category for them as a whole, because you're not creating a brand new game, you're basing it off of a game that was already created. So if the original game was good, you have an incredible foundation to then build on that, which gives you a leg up on the competition, especially because Elden Ring, for example, already won Game of the Year. Hands down, it wasn't even close. But if you are going to allow DLCs and expansions to be up there as part of the 6 nominations, Shadow of the Erdtree has to be one of them, and it will be one of them come Monday, is my prediction. And honestly, if you're going to put any DLC or expansion up there, at least it's a DLC that has 30, 40, 50, even 60 hours for some players of gameplay and can almost be considered a standalone game. The next game I think is going to be nominated is Metaphor ReFantazio, and this is for a number of reasons. Number one, the game got incredible reviews from both users and critics alike, for good reason. The art style was one of the most unique and awesome art styles I've ever seen in a game, complemented by an incredible music score as well. Aside from this, the gameplay was great, offering a relatively fresh take on the turn-based combat that you would know and love from like the Persona games, for example, allowing you to even have some action combat for some of the smaller enemies to not get, stale every time going into combat over and over and over, and it being turn-based, which can kind of break up the momentum of the game at times. On top of this, the companions or the characters in the game in general were fantastic, and the overall story and how it delved into politics in a very nuanced way was fucking awesome. This game as a whole deserves a nomination, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up winning, although I definitely don't think it is the front runner because it's not as popular of a game as some of the other games that I think are going to be nominated on this list. Now this leads me into my next prediction, which is the most recent Astro Bot game. And although platformers aren't necessarily my thing, you have to give credit to PlayStation here for making one of the most awesome, just fun in general platformers with Astro Bot that has all of this PlayStation lore thrown within the game for a incredibly smooth, polished, and again, overly just fun experience. And on top of this, PlayStation with this newest Astro Bot game did so well at including all of the different features with the controller and the PlayStation as a whole and maximizing what the console can do and showing that within the newest Astro Bot game, which is what we have come to expect from them, obviously, especially for their first party games. But now you have Astro Bot, which has skyrocketed as a really great mascot for the PlayStation console. And now also with multiple great games within this franchise. Now my next prediction for a nominee is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is obviously the continuation of the Final Fantasy VII remake just a few years ago. And this one continues it in such a great way. The way they have moved Final Fantasy VII into the new era of gaming is nothing short of incredible. The characters are obviously still amazing, but the writing and the dialogue and the performances of these characters is so damn phenomenal, you can't help but just sit back and appreciate it at times, and I've never even thought about skipping 1 millisecond of cutscenes or dialogue or anything within these games. I would never want to. It's just too damn incredible to take your eyes off of for any given moment. The graphics are obviously amazing. I really appreciate the level design as a whole. The only thing I think that holds this game back, and the newer Final Fantasy games in general, is the role-playing in terms of your actual build and your gear and your abilities. I wish there was a little bit more there, but other than that, what's not to say great about this game? It was fantastic. I enjoyed every second of my experience, and this one definitely deserves to be up here as a nomination. With only 2 spots left now, I think my next prediction has to be Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong came into the market from Game Science, who has never published a game before and really came out swinging with this game, Black Myth Wukong. It was so damn good, I started posting videos on my channel based on Black Myth Wukong, and that's really where I started getting any viewers or any subscribers from at all. This game holds a special place in my heart, but aside from that, it's just a great game. The progression of your character and your skills, or the progression of Wukong in your skills in general, the way you can refund them at any given time, and you might need to depending on what boss you're fighting and utilizing different tactics. The bosses in general, there's so many of them, hardly any of them are reused, and if they are, there are still new mechanics there. It's a borderline boss rush at times, but that's not to say the exploration isn't great as well, and there's so many damn cool secrets that you can find within the game as a whole. I really liked a lot of the characters. I loved the cutscenes, how some were stop motion animation and some other ones were full-on anime. It was just so goddamn cool how they explained the story within this game and explained the lore of the journey to the West. On top of this, this game shattered Steam records, having over 2 million concurrent players. The only thing that I think holds this game back is how many invisible walls are in this game that breaks your immersion at times, but it's definitely not something that's game-breaking for me or something that's really gonna hurt the game in my personal overall enjoyment. So this game definitely deserves to be one of the nominees. It has to be. It was a breakout success this year and was a very highly anticipated game for many years from a studio who never even developed a game previous to this. And in my opinion, it definitely exceeded my expectation. Now, this last one is really hard to pick. You have games like Hades 2, which is in early access, but was an incredible game and continues to be an even more incredible experience by the day with all of the new updates they're adding to the game. You have Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, you have Balatro, you have even games like Black Ops 6 or Dragon Age the Veilguard I could see getting a spot within this top 6. All the way back to the start of the year, I'm trying to think of some of the other games that could potentially be on here, but you even have Silent Hill 2 that could potentially be on this list. Dragon's Dogma 2 could potentially be on this list. This one is a really hard last pick for me. And that's not even to mention games like Stellar Blade, Warhammer Space Marine 2, or Helldivers 2. But overall, my last pick, and I forgot to even mention Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom could be on here as well, but I think overall my last pick has to be more of like an indie game, not like these big AAA companies releasing games. It's going to be, in my opinion, and should be, Balatro. Because Balatro, although I didn't play it, I've heard so many great things about it. It's a really cool just take on cards in general, becoming like a deck building roguelike where you take out enemy blinds, and I think that's pretty damn cool overall. something very unique that we haven't seen. And this game, back when it first came out, really emphasized the indie game market kind of taking over AAA gaming in general. These more simple but very unique games that don't have this really high budget, that are getting all of this player base and not really just relying on microtransactions and all of these different corporate decisions to push you some pretty much crap and really not take care of the actual customer or the player playing their games. Balatro was huge within that conversation and really started the conversation all over again in a very meaningful way. And I think it was very impactful on gaming in general, so I think you really have to throw Balatro in here, although, again, I could see a ton of these other games that I just mentioned being in this spot. I think the biggest ones that I could see if Balatro's not here is potentially the most recent Warhammer, maybe even Silent Hill 2 or Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I could see all of these easily being in this spot as well, aside from all the other games that I just mentioned. But that leads me to what game I think is going to win Game of the Year for 2024 based on the rules and regulations that they set forward for what was able to be nominated within this list. I think they did this for a reason, and I think Shadows of the Erdtree is going to win Game of the Year for 2024. And listen, I think all of these games would be deserving if they won. I truly do believe all of these games would be deserving. However, I think FromSoft is just a different beast right now. They have not missed, maybe in my lifetime, they're the best developer in the entire industry right now, hands down, in my opinion. There's a lot of other great developers, but nothing has delivered the consistency that From Software has delivered in terms of all of their games from multiple different franchises. All of the different spin-offs with Sekiro, with Bloodborne, with Dark Souls, with Elden Ring, not to mention Armored Core as well. All of these games were fantastic. Some of these games were bona fide masterpieces, including Elden Ring and including Shadows of the Erdtree. And they're not a company that is pushing you corporate bullshit. They're taking risks, they're delivering, they're exceeding expectations, and they did the same thing again with Shadows of the Erdtree, and I do think this one is going to win Game of the Year. Now, in an alternate universe, when DLCs or expansions wouldn't be allowed to be on this list and Shadows of the Erdtree isn't on here, I would probably say, like I mentioned, Warhammer or one of these other games like Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom would probably take that spot, but all in all, I think probably Final Fantasy VII Rebirth would end up winning the Game of the Year if Shadows of the Erdtree wasn't able to. Although my personal pick would be Black Myth Wukong, because that's the game I enjoyed the most. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate the support. Let me know down below in the comments whether you think this is a good list, or if you have your own predictions on what is going to be nominated on Monday when they release all of the nominations at the Game Awards. Aside from this, like the video if you liked the video, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!